Hi, this is Kat from Alley Cat's Quilt Shop in Marquette, Michigan. And today I'm going to be showing you how to put together Block 2 from Getting to Know Hue, our Block of the Month quilt. So we're going to start over on Block 2 on page 7, Getting to Know Teal. And after you have your yardage cut for your individual pieces, we're going to go ahead and start with sewing the uneven 9 patches, which we'll make 2. You're going to be using your 2 B squares and an A rectangle on either end. Your center unit is going to consist of your large C square and your 2 A rectangles. This unit is very straightforward. The only thing I'm going to mention is when you're pressing this unit, you want to press the seam allowances on the outside rectangles towards the center. And in the center unit, you want to press your seam allowances away from the center C square, so that when you sew your 3 sections together, your corners line up perfectly. So you'll be making 2 of these. The next unit you'll be making are the half square triangles using your background fabric with the teal flower toss, and the other is with your background fabric and your teal weave fabric. Now I'm using the medium gray background fabric, but some of you are using the dark gray and some of you are using the white or off-white. So if your background fabric looks different than mine, you just chose a different background fabric for your quilt. So to make these half square triangles, we're going to place a background square right sides together with our teal flower toss fabric and also our teal weave fabric. You're going to draw a line diagonally, and then we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch on either side of this line. And I actually put my regular sewing foot on for this instead of my 1/4 inch foot with a flange. It keeps your the flange from shifting your square around as you're stitching. Once you have sewn down the center, you are going to cut your 2 half square triangles apart. You're going to get 2 from each square. You are going to be pressing your seam allowances towards the dark fabric, which is going to be the teal fabrics. And after that, we need to trim these down to 2.5 inches square in both directions. These finish about 1/8 of an inch larger than 2.5 inch square, which is great because we can just trim them down a little bit and we have perfect 2.5 inch squares, and our fabrics meet in exactly each corner diagonally. Once we have our half square triangle units together, we are going to move on to our right rectangle. And that is going to be this unit here. We're going to piece this unit. You're going to be putting your background E square on top of a your teal weave D rectangle. You're going to mark a line. Let me bring this over. You're going to be marking a line. I've already cut that. So diagonally from the upper left-hand corner to the bottom right-hand corner. You're going to stitch directly on that line, and then we're going to trim that away. Once that's trimmed away, we are then going to press our seam allowances down towards our teal weave rectangle. And you will be making 8 of these units. Once you have those units completed, we will move on to the corner triangle units. And in order to make this unit, we're going to need a half square triangle with our teal flower and a half square triangle with the teal weave. And you're going to piece these two together. Make sure you look at the diagram in the book so that you have your teal flower in the upper left-hand corner and your teal weave in the upper right-hand corner. It doesn't matter which direction you press your seam allowance on this, so whatever direction is fine. Then we're going to take the right rectangle unit we just made previously, and we are going to sew these two units together. I prefer to have the rectangle, the right rectangle unit on top, but you could also flip it over and sew from this side if you want. You're going to sew your 1/4 of an inch seam on this, and then when you have finished sewing that, you're going to want to press your seam allowance towards the rectangle side. Now we're going to get ready to put it all together, so we'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and the next thing we want to do is we want to use the easy angle ruler to trim the points off the teal vine F triangles. Now, trust me, you want to do it exactly like I'm doing it. Last month, we used this same ruler to trim some points, but we used it in a different way. This month, we are going to use it in this manner. You are going to be laying the ruler along the diagonal cut of the triangle. Notice I have the triangle right side up with the bottom left-hand corner my 90-degree angle. I'm going to place my easy angle ruler along the diagonal line, and I'm going to line up my 1/4 of an inch marking on my ruler along the cut edge of my diagonal line until my ruler touches the opposite side of my triangle. Now I'm going to trim that point. The next thing you want to do is pick up the ruler and flip it completely upside down. Now the words are facing down, and we're going to lay it along our diagonal line again with our 1/4 of an inch markings. We're going to slide until the corner of our ruler touches this bottom edge of our triangle, and now we're going to trim this point off. What I want you to notice is that when I pick up my ruler and I look at my two corner edges, they are parallel to each other. So they should both be cut so that they're parallel. Hopefully you can see that there. Now I've got them right out in those white spaces. Now we're going to pick this up, and I'm going to show you how to sew it to the unit, the corner triangle units. Okay, we're back at the machine, and we are going to sew these triangles onto our unit we just made previously. I'm going to line up the upper right-hand corner of my triangle with my unit. Notice down here that my triangle hangs off. That is okay. Because the designer has tried to make it easy for us so we don't have to use templates, cutting our triangle units starting with a square and cutting them in half diagonally gets us close, so we don't have to use a template, but this is going to be trimmed off, so don't worry about it. We just want to line it up here, and I've just sewn down this edge, and I am going to be pressing this out. If it doesn't tell you in the book, I always press out as I'm building my block. Now we're going to take the next triangle we just trimmed over at the cutting table, and I'm going to be lining up the opposite corner. And notice it just lays in there beautifully. These are going to overhang here. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to come up here and go ahead and sew this into position. See if I can get my... And when I press this open, we are going to have a really, really large seam allowance along this edge here, which is exactly what we want. Then we won't be cutting our point off here. Okay, I want to back up 1 second and make a comment about this unit that we were building before I took a break. We have one of our dark triangles on here, and we're getting ready to put the other triangle on. See this piece of fabric sticking out? We don't need it, so we're going to just snip that away. And now our next unit is going to fit on here nicely. Now, if you cut the angles on this triangle wrong to begin with, and you've gone back and recut them, and they're coming up a little short, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It will still work because we have to do some trimming anyway. So once you get this into position, you're going to sew it, and then we're going to end up with this unit here. So we've pressed our seam allowances towards our dark triangles, and now this is where we have a little issue down here. She does not tell us in the book to do any trimming along this bottom edge, but we really need to, because this is greater than 1/4 inch from this point to the edge, and we can't have all this excess here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this unit to your cutting area. You're going to line up this side of your unit along a line on your cutting mat. You're going to use a ruler. You're going to lay it across here so that you're straight, and you're going to make sure that you're trimming off so you're leaving 1/4 inch plus a couple of threads, and then you're going to trim this off. And the reason you have to do that is over here. Let me show you. In order for us to be able to put our background triangles on the sides of this unit, I've trimmed down to just over 1/4 inch. You can see that. If I didn't trim this down and I tried to put this triangle here, I would not have enough left on this upper corner to give me my 1/4 inch seam allowance for the next side. So you need to trim this down to 1/4 inch, just over 1/4 inch. When you go to place your background triangles on each side of this unit, notice they line up beautifully along the bottom edge, and now you have a straight line. One other thing, before you sew these on, I took and clipped these dog ears off. It just makes it helps to keep things so that it's nice and tidy and you can line up. Also notice that when we start sewing, where this V-notch is right here, that's where my stitching line starts. That tells me that when I get ready to press this open, I'm going to end up with a straight line here. This is what we have to have hanging over. So that is correct. So your unit should look like this when you get ready to sew these triangles onto the edges. Once you do that, your unit is going to look like this. And so now I'm going to come in and snip off my dog ears, and I have a beautiful triangle. Now, we're going to put our pieces together. So if you come over here and look at this unit, you're going to take a corner, unit and another corner unit, you're going to sew it onto your center block with these units on either end. You're only sewing the background triangles on to your side units here. So we're going to sew the triangle on here, and then we're going to have two left over without the triangles and our center unit. And then these go on like this, like so. Make sure that you're pinning at your intersections. Do not take those pins out until you sew through them. If you do that, your corners are going to match up perfectly. Notice that I have dog ears all the way around, and that's a good thing. That's what we want, because now when I go to sew my side borders on, I am not going to sew my star points off, and that's the whole purpose of that seam allowance there. We're going to sew the side borders on first. I want you to notice that these extend beyond our block. That is correct. The reason is everybody's 1/4 of an inch foot may be a little different. So when we get to this point, your block is perfect. You're going to sew your side borders on with your 1/4 of an inch, press them back out, and now you're going to trim your borders to fit your block exactly. Once those are on and trimmed, you're going to come in and put your other two side borders on and press them out. And then the final step is to trim your block down to exactly 15 1/4 by 15 1/4. Okay, I hope that this video has helped you be successful in piecing block 2 of Getting to Know Hue. And if you want to subscribe to this channel, I will continue to be giving you a demonstration on each block through this whole series through block 12. So, thank you and happy quilting.